What's going on, everybody? You might notice this is a little different titled video. You may have clicked on this one out of interest. This is gonna be the full episode of everything I shoot for the week, generally done on the same day, kind of all almost in one take, very little editing, which will then get chopped down, put into little 5 and 8 minute segments if you wanna go watch those separately because you don't have as much time. But I've been kind of dabbling back with the idea of going back to almost the podcast days, and we're gonna give it a shot here. So we'll see how this does. Now, we're gonna go back to the classic 3-segment deal that we used to do back in the day. And today, what you might expect to see is, in the first segment, a little something about distribution. There's been some shenanigans afoot if you've been watching and paying attention. Yeah, we might get into that a little bit. Second segment, gonna be a little bit about a review we did in the past and how we feel about that bourbon today. Have to watch out for that one. And finally, closing out the show, we're gonna get into a little thing called Best of 3. You'll see what we mean when we get there. But let's kick off. So you're gonna see some new segment titles. This one's gonna be First Things First. And this is gonna be my thoughts about what recently happened, if you all been watching, with the Virginia ABC. So I'm gonna go into a little bit of nerding out. If you guys don't know too much about just control states or non-control states, we'll go into that a little bit. If you know about that, I'll try not to belabor that too much. I just wanna make sure everybody's on the same page here before we really dive in. So what we have in this country, thanks to the 21st Amendment, which gave the states the rights to not only repeal prohibition, but allow them to control the alcohol that comes into their state essentially, and that's produced in their state to a large extent. That gave them the right to say how they did that. Now, there are states that have chosen to say, okay, I wanna be involved in that process, and they're called control states. There are states, mostly 33 of them, which said, nah, I don't wanna be in the middle. I just wanna collect the taxes that come my way because, come on, there's taxes either way. Otherwise, this wouldn't exist that way. So we're gonna focus a little more on the control states in this particular discussion because that's where a couple of trip-ups have been this year, most notably the one in Virginia last week. But before I do that, I wanna make it clear on this in particular that this is where the whole 3-tier system was born, essentially. So the idea was we have a producer in one state, they want to ship their product to another state. Well, somebody's got to accept that. And to keep it from being what was called tied houses, still is called tied houses, meaning a distillery can say, I'm only going to do products here and the bar owner will do it. Then they said there should be some mechanism in the middle, thus the distributors, and then the retailers, whether it be a store or a bar. So back in the day in the 30s, that probably made a lot of sense. We could probably argue whether that makes sense today or not. That's for another day. But today, let's dive in a little bit. So the control states say there's a couple of different ways they operate in general. One is they want total control. So that means not only do they accept the liquor from the distributor, but they also own the retail level as well. So that, in this case, that was Virginia. We'll get back to that in a minute and get to the core of the case. Some other states say, nah, we just want to be in the middle. We just want to be the distributor and not the retailer. We'll let private retailers still exist, but we still control exactly how and what gets to them and when it gets to them. That's the gist of it. Let's go into it just a little bit because the 2 examples we've got this year of states really kind of kicking their toe up against the door as they were leaving in the middle of the night, whatever it is. Yeah, they're both those 2 situations. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the state of Washington does its own thing. We're gonna leave that on the table for now. They've kind of almost torn the 3-tier system out of the entire thing, though it still exists, just not mandated. So last example that's come up was about a week ago at this point. State of Virginia had a lottery. And just as you can imagine, since they control the retail space, some of these states also have lotteries on top for the highly allocated products. So they had the Van Winkles, they had some of your Old Wellers, they had even a Heaven Hill. I think one of the Heritage series was in that particular lottery. Come to find out that on the B-Tax that were in that lottery as well, there were 2 winners that won 4 of the B-Tax, all 4 of the B-Tax they had to offer. That is statistically crazy when you think about it. Now, it's not like they had millions and millions of entries. They had 100, they had a few thousand up to tens of thousands in these entries. But at the same time, the odds of winning were pretty large when you really think about it. And the fact that you would win 4 particular draws and the fact that 2 people won 4 particular draws really caught a lot of attention, in particular when it was disclosed that that in fact was the case. So they put out some information because it's a state thing where you have to be able to have sunshine law and put out information requests. So they had to put out information. Turns out they just posted on their Facebook today Turns out they just put on their Facebook at the time of this filming that there was actually not correct information released to the public with that public information request. So the plot thickens even more here. Turns out they're explaining away that that was a sorting error. There were some issues with that. I'm not here to say anyone had any wrongdoing whatsoever. I don't know that's a fact, and so I'm not even gonna go there. But the point is, it opens the door to this conversation that says, what really is the best system for us as consumers? So you might say, okay, a lot of people are just gonna say, I don't want the government involved in any of my stuff. That's a fair angle, guys. I'm not here to talk politics about it. I'm just here to talk about the actual liquor and how we feel about it, right? So the other example that happened earlier this year was in Oregon. And Oregon has a little different system as well. So in this case, I don't recall if they're one of the states that actually has where they control the retail level, but they do something similar where there is a situation in which the bottles are delivered to a particular store for delivery to the person that's won the lottery or that they're earmarked, whatever, how that works. I use the term earmarked in this case because it was apparent that you were able to earmark them somehow, whether that was from the inside or not. Again, not alleging any wrongdoing, but it is interesting. And it was known that in this case, some people close to, if not the actual person that was responsible for the oversight of that particular process, had Pappy bottles delivered to a local store that were held aside for him or said parties allegedly. So this leads me to kind of say, even when we don't have full state control and you have partial state control where there's an independent retailer involved, still doesn't seem to be the great case, right? Well, so how do I feel about that? Well, you know, I live in Florida. And so living in Florida for me, the thing about it is we're not a control state. So really, we don't have anything except they need to ensure it hits a distributor and then it gets to a retailer, and there is such thing as allocation. But that's not controlled by the state. That's done differently by the distributor. Could potentially certainly be like in a situation of a barrel pick at the request of a distillery, right? Because you need to get the bottles to the right place. This, that, and the other. So there is some coordination in the system, but it's not any one particular system or a state agency looking at it. I like this system. I really do. I don't complain when I don't get bottles because frankly, I don't go out and put in the effort to go out and get them. So, you know, when I don't get something, it isn't a big deal because, well, I didn't try. Now, if I tried and whatnot, I can see where it's frustrating. Sure. Make your relationship with your store owners. Yes, that goes so far, but everybody's trying to do that. So you never know what you're going to get a chance to get. But I do like it this way. So I think there are really two things that if you ask me where I think this should all land and I had to wave the magic wand, you're never going to be liked by anyone, but I would go one of two ways, and at the end, I'll tell you which one I actually do pick. So, first one, no control state, just like Florida. Let it go out just as it is. Unfortunately, I don't think that's a perfect system either, because that's how you end up getting museums, because there's no price controls. There's no things like that. Although I don't mind the retailer trying to, get a little scratch in their pocket if they're able to go above MSRP. But in all honesty, it really isn't in the spirit of making sure everything gets out to the market. So, I have seen models where states, sort of like Ohio, where they have a lottery system, do such a thing where it is an in-person, where you show up and get in line and they have a drop, so to speak. So it's not necessarily a lottery, it's first come, first serve, though I think there is one model that does actually show up, you get a number and then they call numbers. I could be confusing that with Liquor Barn in Kentucky, but if I am, that's a cool system too. But I'm looking at it and saying, if there's a control state model that makes any sense, it's this one where they say, hey, we're doing a drop. There's 8 stores throughout the state getting the drop. Could be private. I hope so. I really wouldn't want to have the retailer be the state, but that's a whole nother topic. And then just come back and say, here you go. It's going to be here Saturday, 10 a.m. First come, first serve, one at a time. You can reline. You can go through however many times you want till the bottles are depleted. Now, I tend to like this because, in all honesty, if I knew it was on a Saturday morning, I could make that conscious decision whether I burnt my time or not. There's one thing that you can throw holes in this at, is that people do hire mules to come and actually sit in line for them and whatnot. So that is a possibility that could certainly ruin that type of system. But, every system is going to have its bad actors regardless of how you do this. I mean, how many times have you been in a Facebook group and you see somebody that gets a case of the newest release and you're like, how the frick are you getting a case? Because whatever. Oh, they know the store owner or whatever. And that's fine. That goes back to that whole idea of the store owner. So how do I feel? I just gave you the two. I said non-control state or control state where they have drops, physical drops at locations at announced times. For me, at this point in my whiskey journey, I actually don't mind the control state option. I'll tell you why. I can choose if I want to try to go get a bottle of Stag or BTAC or sit in line for 12 hours or whatever. Yeah, my time is valuable, but my overnight time is not nearly as valuable as my working hours. And so it is what it is. I've done it before when we were in craft beer. We would go line up like crazy down here in Tampa because you know we loved our pastry stouts back in the day. That's kind of a dying thing now. It is what it is. That would be my choice. Yeah, second choice is that true non-control state, which is, to me, it's what I'm living right now, and I like it. I don't want it to go away. The only option I consider replacing with is, like I just said, on that particular one where I could have that control state with timed announced drops. So we're gonna jump into the second segment, and we're actually gonna call this one On Second Thought. So in a minute, you'll have On Second Thought, Calumet 16. All right, it's time for On Second Thought, and this one, we're gonna go back to Calumet 16. Now, you guys may have remembered this from about 9 months ago. James and I were on the review, and we said it was a pass for us. So, I've had this bottle. It's been open about 9 months, as you guys probably surmised. And at that time, we were getting some notes of a little mint, a little oak, a little herbal, on the nose. On the palate, we had this minerality thing we didn't quite like, and there was little things that we just weren't really digging it. It just wasn't our jam. It wasn't bad. We used the whole horse racing analogy, which is great right now, right? Because we're in the middle. Even though nobody's gonna actually win the Triple Crown because it didn't happen. Didn't horse that won the Derby, didn't win the Preakness. But let's get back into it. So you can see quite a different amount this time. We were just below the neck last time. And just to get it up to the camera, since I'm gonna really be light on B-roll, since I'm doing this more podcast style, like I told you guys, you're gonna see here, of course, the Calumet 16, 106 proof. They're calling it a single rack. We've now come to find out a lot more information, a little more confident with explaining it. Definitely is one of those things. It's Barton, although NDA, so no one can say it is. And so 16-year-old Barton, that's pretty good, right? We know Barton used to supply some old barrels out there. But the real question is, how do we feel about this the second time around? A lot later, a lot more airtime on that bottle. Let's see how it goes. A lot more sweet mint this time. So it kind of seems a little sweeter as it's opened up with some airtime in the bottle. Still that low oak, and that herbaceousness is not quite as strong. So I think some of the things most people really enjoy in bourbons on that sweet side are starting to be really accentuated. So this is meant to be a short kind of recap. Let's get into drinking. This is a much spicier experience this time around. I'm really enjoying what first hit on the palate. Gonna come back for a second hit in a second, let that kind of sink in. But I'm not really getting that initial mint like I did the last time. That wasn't enjoyable. It is there, it's coming around now as my palate's kind of waking up and having it kind of sink into everything. Minerality that we noted last time, which was on the long finish, I get a little faster this time. I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of minerality. Not Dickel minerality in this case. Definitely not that bad. So let's go in for a second sip, give you an honest thought about where we're landing on this one. Now I'm starting to get some nice flavors of almost like tobacco leather. There was a hit of a little bit of like what was almost a green apple in there. I can really tell that a year later, after doing this for almost a year, my palate is starting to really come around because I don't think I could have picked that out before. It still has this minerality on the end and the oak. And those two things are pairing up at the end that I just can't really get with. It's not my jam. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't come across like an older whiskey. I've now had a chance to have older whiskey a few more times than I had in that video. And it's just coming across as a little harsh more than anything. Those two things coming together don't come together nicely. They don't marry very well to me. Third quick sip, then I'll close this up and we'll go on to the next segment. So I am actually still gonna be a pass on this one. And that probably surprises some people because yes, I have come a long way with what I've tasted. Now, it's not to say I didn't have some tasting experience for a few years prior to starting this channel, but in the last year, you would have thought I'd come a long way. I do actually think that this experience is better than the first time we recorded it. But if you'd have sat this in front of me, I'm not sure, blind, I'm not sure if I would have said anything different than what I'm saying here. It's just not for me. I don't think there's anything technically wrong with it. It's not horrible tasting. I don't like the finish combination. That's okay. Some people may dig that. But for me, I'm gonna say, if we're coming back around on second thought, nah, dog, I'm good. So let's move on to the third segment you'll see here in just a minute, and that's gonna be called Best of 3. I think you're gonna enjoy this concept. It's time for what I'm calling Best of 3, and this edition is gonna be toasted, literally. So I decided at the outset of this that I wanted to do toasted barrel products. Now, I kind of went on the fence because I didn't really want to open this Michter's Toasted Sour Mash just yet. I know what I have in this Yellowstone, and obviously you can see I've opened this Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel. Honestly, they're all relatively in the same proof range, with the Yellowstone being at the top end at the 100s, so sue me a little bit, they're not exactly the same. But let's switch things up a bit. Rather than just doing a 3-way blind, we're gonna do what's called Best of 3. What I'm gonna do is pour these in a second, do a ton of mixy. I'll probably speed through that part of the video so you guys don't have to watch, or if you're watching this on the full episode, you may have to watch for a minute. I'll still try to talk you through it or figure out something to talk about. But the main thing is, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna blind all 3. I'm actually just gonna pick the first 2, whatever they are. I won't know what number they are at that point. Blind those 2, put the loser to the side to face off with the other one when waiting, put the winner off to this side, do the next 2. The next 2, put the winners together. That's our final round, best of the 3. Get the idea? Pretty simple concept. Let's pour them up. So I'm gonna pour backwards because it's a little easier for me to reach. You can see I put painter's tape on the bottom with a number, painter's tape on the back, so you guys can see how I'm doing this, so I know which is which at the end of the episode, because I'll be mixing these things up. We're not gonna pour too much. We just need to be able to go 2 rounds with one of them, so probably a little less than an ounce is gonna do for this, to be honest with you. And then I'm gonna put these off to the side. They're not on the camera, but I'll give you a quick peek. I don't know if you'll get a really good view of that, but there you go. Elijah Craig is down. It is the number 3 entrant. Yellowstone Toasted. It's a single barrel, actually. So that's the one advantage I'll give it, because they are a smaller distillery, and we wanted to give them some sort of a leg up, potentially. This is something Sarah and I had on our trip to Louisville, and we actually were down at Bardstown. We said, you know what? We've heard great things about Limestone Branch. Let's pop in there, and they did not disappoint in the least. Now, the last one I'm really excited about. I was on the fence about whether I was gonna keep this or not and open it. Ooh, you heard that one, sound like a duck. It is the Michter's Sour Mash Toasted, and obviously no secondary value now if I really wanted to, nor would I know trade value. I've heard great things, so it's just time to open this thing. So, I'm gonna drop this on the floor, and then we're gonna get to it.
Alright, so I'm just gonna do this and talk you guys through just mixing matching. There's no way I can possibly be keeping up with this and what is where. You guys can probably play on at home if you're good with the Find the Queen game, but I'm not that good at shuffling it, and so that's how that goes. It is what it is.
I can honestly tell you I have no idea what's in any of these glasses at this point after just that little bit of shuffling, because using this and these at the same time doesn't remember this. It's how it goes. All right, so whatever this one is, we're putting it off to the side. It's gonna come back later, but we're gonna go head to head on these and decide which one we like the best. We're doing this fairly quick style, so I'm not gonna draw this out, but I have to give them each a nosing. Gotta say, I do like the nose on this one a little bit. It's a little sweet, maybe even a little honey on the nose, slightly. Honey giving way to some oak as a second sniff. Smell a little neutral spot on your body. It's a tip. If you're not sure, wonder why people smell their wrists or their forearms. You wanna smell somewhere else in your body. You're used to your own smell. It helps you get back a little bit to central with your passages in your nose. Not quite, but close enough. This one's way more intense on the oakiness, on the finish. And a little sweetness shining through there. That one reminds me a little bit of sweet tea off just the rip of the nose. So those are first thoughts. I'm not trying to make this thing super long. I'm trying to respect your time here. Let's do a little tasty. We'll see where we're at. So we're gonna go A, B, B, A. Ooh, that hits nice. That's got some vanillas, almost some stone fruit in there a little bit. Not big heavy flavors of it. And then just nice toasted oak. That is what I like in a toasted barrel. Let's see if this guy has anything for it. This is a little thinner right off the rip. I can just tell when you're ABing. But what you get here is actually super, super nice in that, whereas this one, I got, you know, all those flavors. I just get this nice sweet experience up front that expands just a little bit of spiciness on the palate and just comes back. So I can't say I'm mad at that in the least whatsoever. The initial thought process before we go back the other way on this one is this first one on my left hand over here, which is, I think you're right. I have no idea. I'm terrible at this stuff. A little bit ahead, but let's go back the other way because sometimes that changes things. Give it a smell a second time. Let the palate kind of rest for a second before we go into this. Here we go. Yeah, that actually, it's a touch thin, but it's got everything I want. That sweetness on the front kind of has a little honey, a little apple potentially. Gives way to just a little bit of spiciness, which I enjoy. I dig a lot. And the finish on it is a nice sweet finish. It's actually just a very nice subtle experience throughout your palate. It doesn't come and punch you in the mouth. It's pretty nice. So I come back to this one that's on this side, and what I dig about it is it does give me a little punch in the mouth. I want a little more bite for my whiskey at my point in my journey. I tell you, I think the flavors on this one are slightly better, but the punch I get here really sticks with me. This is a really tough choice, but I gotta make it pretty quick here because I'm not trying to drag things out too much. So we're gonna say this one that's moving on in this particular round is gonna be this one. We're gonna move this one off to the side over here, just so you know. It's going right here. You guys may still be able to see it in. It depends on how I'm cropped right now, if I crop in. We're gonna put this up against the competitor that's been in the wings waiting. So we now know this is the one that lost, and this is the new competitor. So let's finish this game of, this round of best of 3. And we're gonna let the champ go first. Excuse me, not the champ, the chump. Got that wrong. We're gonna let the chump go first. Yeah, such a weird alternating experience there to go back like from that spicier to that kind of subtle but spicy. I can't say I don't like it. I definitely do like it, but let's see what the new challenger has for us. Now, the new challenger introduces some flavors that I'm not sure I'm digging too much, to be honest with you. It's actually got just a lot of oak. Like it's more oaky, more tannic. It's not the greatest word, but you get the it's more of an oak experience, I guess is the right way to say it. And I'm not sure it's hitting me right. Obviously, we're gonna give it a second chance so I can go back to back on it here in a second. Because what it does is it hits you really close to the front of the palate. I don't get a chance to enjoy anything on the front of the palate before I get a chance to really come in and say whether, you know, it's got a lot of sweetness, it's not. It's not as enjoyable to me. That's okay. Not everything is, right? But on second sip, I get a little more vanilla. I get a little hint of what I am interpreting to be a little bit like floral, but don't think like really sweet, smelly floral. Kind of like that underlying when you just go, something smells really fresh in here. It smells a little bit like flowers. Like that, but not like a big hit of floral, which is really kind of strange. I don't expect that out of any of these. I don't recall getting that out of any of these. We try to wash our dishes with like non-scented soap or rinse them really well if we have to use a scented soap. So it can't be the glass. All right, let's go back. Let's see what the chump has to say about that. The one-time loser already. Yeah, the chump is just the chump. It's a nice, enjoyable experience, but I can't say I'd write home about it. It's might be enough to take out the challenger here, but at the same time, I'm not sure. I really couldn't tell you. It's actually a really close race, and I'm actually kind of thinking a little more about having to have a sip of the challenger again, just because I'm now 6, 7, 8 sips in. I need to make sure I understand what I'm tasting. So one more real quick. Yeah, I can't get past that kind of floral soapy-ish note in there. I don't know where it's coming from. I know it's not the glassware. Again, like I mentioned, I can't get past it. So I'm gonna have to say the second challenger, you're out. And I think it's kind of predictable how this might go. So this is the 1-1 and this is the 1-0, and it's only you know, 3 rounds, best of 3, so to speak. So doesn't matter. We can wipe out the records at this point. We're gonna have the one that lost to the one that lost to originally. So didn't think it'd go that way. I thought I'd have more of a kind of stepping stone, but hey, we'll see how this concept goes. I have no idea how it's working. I'm trying to record it as part of this full episode series too. So go back into that for a second. We'll let my palate rest. I'm recording these as full episodes, but I'm releasing them in segments. So if you're watching this as a segmented video, just this one thing, please remember, I'll link the cards at the top at the end. You can go watch the full video, all 3 segments that I've recorded on this particular session. All right, we're gonna give the chump the ultimate chance to come back. We're gonna let the chump go first again. I call it the chump. Man, it's just solid. It's just solid. It's tough like that. I feel bad now for call it the chump, man. I mean, obviously beat the other one here, but it's just a nice sweet up front experience. It's a nice consistent, got a little bit of that perfect amount of baking spice in there. I'd be happy with this. If you just handed this to me, I'd be really happy with this. I could sip on this. It feels like a good night starter. But that's not what I'm looking for all the time. I only start my night once. I want something I can drink a few of. So let's see if this one's still got that. Yeah. We're still gonna go back one more time, but this one offers me a little more. It's still got a little bit of sweetness up front. Still got all that beautifulness. I think I know where this is going, but we're gonna go back to the BA first, so B. Let it rest for a second, let it breathe. Man, that just has a nice, even late kind of piece to it that I really dig. Finish is actually longer. This being thinner, finish dies off on this real fast. Now, I'm late in this tasting, so finishes are kind of hard to pull apart, but this distinctly sits over this one after having a couple sips. All right, we've got a winner here. It's not 100% clear decision, but it's a clear winner, split decision. So the order I've got from my left to right, your right to left probably is here to the middle glass, 3rd place. All right, so let's see what the results are gonna be. Oh, number 2. So 3rd place today, it's gonna be Yellowstone. I can't say I'm really surprised by this. We really enjoyed it at Limestone Branch, but at the same time, it's a step up in proof and I dig it, but it's not against these. These had nice nuance against them. I was curious to see if this would be the upstart and this would actually kind of come in and possibly weasel its way between the 2 kind of known entities, and it didn't quite do that for me in this session. So it is what it is. Let's reveal the second one, which is number 1. That's kind of surprising. I don't think anyone saw that coming, that the Michter's Toasted Sour Mash, which I know is getting great reviews, actually came in 2nd place to Elijah Craig Toasted in this case. I'll move the glasses out of the way. I'm not sure exactly what's happening with the focus on the camera, but y'all can just imagine. I'll come in a little close here. I am a little surprised. I really thought, based off what I'd heard about the Michter's Sour Mash, that it was gonna actually just clean sweep. And I'm actually not the biggest fan of Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel. I do like it, but in this particular day, this is how this hit me. So we've got Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel first, Michter's Sour Mash Toasted 2, and this Yellowstone, which is a nice pick in its own right, definitely a 3rd place. So I hope you guys enjoyed this concept. I hope you guys enjoyed this entire episode. Honestly, we're gonna start doing this where we just put 3 or 4 segments together. Might be 20 minutes, might be 30 minutes, might be 40, 50 minutes, who knows? But putting together a whole episode, so if you guys are listening with a longer time to listen or watch, you can do that, or gonna cut down that content like I mentioned at the top of the episode, to be able to put it out and still the bite-sized chunks in. If you guys wanna watch in that particular fashion, you can too. No matter how you slice it, I really can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support you guys have given so far, and you continue to give. So if you think this concept is cool as a full episode, I'd love to hear from you. If you're watching this as segmented content, like you may be, please leave your answers below as to which toasted you would pick out of these three, or if there's another toasted that you would say throw in there. A lot of people are probably gonna say Penelope toasted. I know they're popular. Let's see what you have to say. So until next time, guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Cheers.